courage you can't stop. They pile up the points until they reach the top. Pull together till the Grey Cups won. Go Argos, go, go, go! Touchdown for the blue on blue. The Argos will win for you. Full stop, they pile up the points until they reach the top.
Good evening, everybody. Sorry for the technical difficulties there. It happens occasionally with yours truly. But welcome to Season 4, Episode 2 of the Argo Bounce Podcast Show, a weekly talk show devoted to the CFL's 19-time Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts with co-host Nick Small and producer and co-host Chris Pomay. I hope everyone's doing well on this Wednesday, June 18th, 2025. And I'm going to bring on my co-host, Nick Small, and we're going to break down the Argos' 29-19 loss to the Calgary Stampeders and preview their game against Saskatchewan this Friday night at 7:30 at BMO Field. Good evening, Nick. How you doing?
Hey, Chris. Hello, everybody. Doing fine. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about on this show. As we know, the season is not off to a great start for the Argonauts. 0-2 start through the first two games, a little bit out of character from what we've seen in the Ryan Dinwiddie era. But before that, we do have something else that we wanted to showcase for you guys.
Just give me a minute, Nick, if you want to talk for a minute. I'm going to set up a little video that I did interview with a fan from outside of St. Louis. His name is George Brown, and I ran into him in the GO train in Burlington. And yeah, it's great seeing fans come from other cities, other countries, and he loves the Argonauts, Nick, and he's already been to most of the stadiums in the CFL.
Yeah, believe it or not, there are more Argonaut fans than just people who live in Toronto. So, yeah, interesting interview. You guys will love it. Other things we have set on our agenda to talk about. Of course, once we're done this, we're going to talk about Schultz and Volpe being inducted into the all-time Argos list. Schultz as a player, Chris Schultz, obviously, and Nick Volpe as in the builder category. And then we'll spend the rest of the episode talking about kind of how the game went against Calgary and what they need to do to look in better form on Friday against the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Okay, well, here is the interview with George Brown, who drove 16 hours from just outside of St. Louis. And we'll play this interview right now, courtesy of my YouTube channel, Chris Pomay, live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And we're going to hear this interview right now with George Brown. Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. I'm here on the GO train heading to Toronto for today's Argo Calgary game, BMO Field at 4 o'clock. I have a special guest here, and can you just tell us your name, sir?
My name is George Brown. I'm from about an hour from St. Louis, Missouri, and I'm a big Argos fan because when the Rams left, I didn't have a team to cheer for, so I became a CFL fan in protest and became an Argos fan because it kind of reminded me of the Rams.
George, how long of a ride was it for you to get here to Toronto?
It was about 9 hours staying in Detroit.
All right. Well, George, who's your current favorite Argonaut player, and what are your thoughts on today's game between the Argos and Calgary at BMO Field at 4 o'clock today?
It's obviously Chad Kelly right now. I just like the Kelly family, and I mean, I know he gets a lot of hate, but and he had some behavioral problems, but he's still a good quarterback. He's definitely an NFL quality quarterback in the CFL, and I'm glad he's making a good living down here. And my thoughts are, I mean, it's so early in the season. If Chad Kelly's not starting today, then, it's kind of 50-50, but I'm just happy to go see the banner raising. So that's why I'm here. That's like the main reason.
What do you like most about the Toronto Argonauts and the Canadian Football League?
I like the rules. It's different because it's, got its own niche. The 3 downs, the bigger field, and then for the Toronto Argonauts, it's just, 19-time champs, You got 19 banners. We're hanging up one more up today, and hopefully one more next year.
And what final thoughts? Prediction on the game today, and who do you think will make an impact for the Argos today against Calgary?
Prediction for today, I think it's going to be just kind of like a low-scoring defensive game. Probably be like 18, 17, 14. That's kind of all about the game.
Cup replica giveaway.
I'm definitely looking forward to that today for sure.
All right. Well, George, thank you so much. I think it's awesome that you came all the way from near St. Louis to be a CFL and Toronto Argonauts fan. As always, go Argos.
Go Argos. Go Argos, go.
Thanks, George. That clip was courtesy of my YouTube channel, and that was George Brown, who is a huge CFL fan, Toronto Argonaut fan, who traveled just from out St. Louis. He's already been to a Grey Cup a couple years ago in Regina, Saskatchewan. He's planning on going to the Grey Cup this year in Winnipeg, Nick. And that's what I love about the CFL. When you take the GO train, you meet CFL fans, but you just don't know where they're from.
Yeah, that's true, Chris. Every time I've gone on the GO train, I've ran into at least a couple new Toronto Argonaut fans who I haven't met before. They might have been fans a long time or the last 10, 15, 20 years, and I've just never had the opportunity to run into them. But it is one of the nicest parts about the CFL. It's a great opportunity to make new friends. And every time I've met someone on the train and spoken with, always find someone who's well-spoken, have a really good conversation with, find something to bond over. And obviously with the team logo and everything, it's pretty easy to just simply say, hey, what do you think of the game today? How do you think the team's going to do? And he did hit the nail on the head that it was quite a low-scoring game, especially in that first half.
And by the way, the jersey he was wearing, I forgot to ask him about, was Curly Gettin Jr. He was a big fan of Curly Gettin Jr., and he even knew he played at Laurier University. So a shout out to Curly Gettin Jr. And also I want to say a shout out to Robbie Schneider, who you'll be on his show on the 21st of June. And I want to say a shout out to Ken, who is a Facebook follower of mine, for watching this show as well.
Yeah, shout out, Robbie. I'm looking forward to being on your show on Sunday. We'll discuss the Argonauts game, how it goes against Saskatchewan here on Friday.
Let's get into this, Nick. I think we both think alike, but the Argos just yesterday, announced 2 more members, now 28 and 29 on the all-time Argos list. And thoughts on Chris Schultz, who was a player, offensive lineman, and Nick Volpe, who was a player and builder, being named the 28th and 29th members of the all-time Argos team. And I think Mike Hogan is a part of the committee that selects these guys too.
Yeah, the Alumni Association is president is Jason Pottinger, who's very active within the CFL community. He's always out there, almost always one of the guys there signing autographs for kids and whoever else is there during the pregame ceremonies and stuff. But yeah, to talk about Chris Schultz, just what can you say about him? An absolutely phenomenal individual. I always felt a little bit uncomfortable in the way he was inducted in the Canadian Football Hall of Fame, because he was inducted in that builders category. And I think it really overlooked an incredibly long playing career with the Toronto Argonauts.
9 years.
Yeah,
9 years.
9 years, 2-time All-Star, 3-time East All-Star, captured a Grey Cup in 1991, 2-time Most Outstanding Lineman, 124 games with the Double Blue, played for the Dallas Cowboys as well. So there's when you combine it and then his career as an analyst on TSN 1050, something in the ballpark of 20-25 years of being involved, and of course most significantly being the spokesperson for the Pure Later Tackle Hunger campaign. Over 13 million pounds of food has been donated from that campaign since 2003 when it started, and in a way this is a great way that it keeps carrying on his legacy and his memory. So we talked a lot about Schultz, guy that I think some older people like yourself, you might know. People my age might not recognize Nick Volpe quite as well. So he played for the Argonauts 1949 to 1952, won a Grey Cup in 1950 in the Mud Bowl game. He was the kicker at the time. Kicked
Yep.
Kicked two field goals, which helped them beat Winnipeg 13-0, and later on became coach at Port Credit in high school level. Coached the Lakeshore Bears junior football team, helped coach the Toronto Balmy Beach, which won the Ontario Rugby Football Union Championship in 1953, and then came back to the Argos as an executive player employee type role. And so he's got 7 Grey Cups in those combined roles. So it puts him on the same sphere as guys like Pinball, who have just almost run out of fingers to put rings on, which says a lot about his success and his abilities both on and off the field. Both these individuals have such a great legacy to them, and I think it was a long time coming that they joined the all-time Argos list.
Yes, Nick won 2 Grey Cups as a player and 5 as a player development, and he's a huge part of the Argonauts organization. So I think both these gentlemen well deserved, and I guess they'll be going in on Saturday, August 9th at 3 p.m. when the Ottawa Redblacks invade BMO Field for those people watching.
Looking forward to watching Mike Hogan do the sprint down from the radio broadcast booth down, do the speech like he did last year with Ricky Ray, and then having to hustle it right back up to do the analysis with Ben Grant at the end of half. That should be fun to watch just for itself.
Nick, I'm going to put you on the spot. Who would you like to see as an all-time Argo going forward into 2026?
Yeah, it's a good question. I had Chris Schultz on the name of my list for quite a while. One individual I would have as one of the more historic, older players that kind of predates the CFL era. So we're talking like pre-1950s. Guy I would like to see is Glad Murphy. The guy died playing the sport he loved. And not to say that that's the only reason. He had a stellar career. I think he won 2 Grey Cups with the Toronto Argonauts. This is like we're talking about like the Conacher era. So still in a lot of the pioneering days where the rules weren't quite the same as what we see it now. A little bit more of a kicking game, a lot more running and pitching the ball more than the forward pass. So it was in many ways a lot more physical of a game because there was a lot more line contact. There weren't receivers running routes being open and unprotected. It was a lot of just hard grit running. So that would be one individual I would think of to put on that list. Yeah. What about you, Chris? Who's someone you would put on?
I like it the way they did it this year. Obviously, Chris Schultz was kind of in the modern era of the Argonauts from 86 to 94. And then Nick Volpe, who was with the Argos in the late 40s, early 50s. I would kind of like to see one from the 20 to 30 era, like the older era, and one from the modern era. For me, for the Argonauts, I would say right now for the more modern Argos, I think you got to put in number 2, Chad Owens. Chad
Owens is a good option. Definitely somebody who we looked up to, like me speaking on behalf of like my friends and stuff when we were growing up in middle school and high school. The Flying Hawaiian was sort of the iconic face of the franchise there. I was also thinking about too with Volpe, they inducted him as a builder. not as a player. And there's a number of other options they could add in terms of the builders category. I think Adam Rita is probably one that comes to mind.
Yeah.
You could think of maybe John Candy, for instance. So there's still many more names that can be included there if you choose to go that route instead of just looking specifically at players. But if anybody hasn't checked it out and you get the time, Mike Hogan wrote a really good piece on 10 potential candidates that weren't or have yet to be inducted into the CFL or into the all-time Argos list. So if you get time, you can check that out later.
Don Matthews, I know he only coached the Argos, I think 3 seasons, but I believe he is one of their few coaches that won back-to-back Grey Cups, the 96-97 team. So I would like to see a little more of the 96-97 team celebrated, because it's hard to win back-to-back Grey Cups, and those two teams were very special and dominant, in my opinion.
Yeah, another group I would consider adding to the players category would be Anis Stukas. So him coming in brought his 2 brothers, Bill and Frank, I believe, if I remember correctly, and together they were the first trio backfield in Canadian football. And I think Anis, I think, only won 1 Grey Cup, but he went on to coach both Edmonton and BC afterwards. He's someone I consider to be a candidate if you're looking for someone kind of in the older, what I would consider almost forgotten era of Canadian football in Toronto. The ones that, because I've brought it up before, there's always a bunch of recency bias talking about great teams in the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s. We tend to not look back into the pioneering era of football in the same kind of light as we do today.
And I also would like to see some more guys from the Argos special teams, not just recently, but in the past, go in too, like Lance Chomick, Hank Alisic, the Big Z.
Indecision, yeah. I was just thinking of him.
Yeah. So I think Nick, I think they're doing a good job, and it's not an easy decision, but I think this year they got it right, and I'm hoping next year a couple more players will go in, and I think this is a great honor. And I think this is now 29 guys now in it.
Yeah, it's great to see it be revived, because it has been kind of about a 10-year lull where there haven't really been anybody inducted. And I like that it sort of forces fans to engage with the past, to think about what makes someone worthy of being an all-time Argo. It's not only just having a long playing career and playing a bunch of games for the team. It's how you give back to the community. And that's where you see, if you look at a lot of those big names that are there on the list, yeah, they were great players, but they were also great human beings, and they gave back to the Toronto Argonauts community in so many ways. If you look at the most recent inductee, Ricky Ray, I had the opportunity to play catch with him. So like, there's things like that for the young fan coming up is something that they're going to look to for the rest of their lives, and think positively of this individual.
There's 2 guys back from the late 80s, early 90s I would have liked to seen as all-time Argos. Willie Pless, but unfortunately he was traded to Edmonton, and he spent more time away from the Argos than he played there. But if Willie Pless had played his career with the Argonauts, he would have been an all-time Argo. And the other one, running back number 6, who has the team record for most rushing yards in a game with 215 yards, I believe, set in 1988, Gil the Thrill Finity. If he had played a little bit longer in Toronto, I believe he would have been an all-time Argo as well as a running back.
Yeah, those are some other interesting names to bring up. One guy I always think about it is Tobin Rowe. Like, you have someone who's not necessarily like blown the stat sheet out of the water kind of thing, but was such a beloved icon of the team. I think there's definitely a case to be made there, where just because you hold team records or have, one really good memorable moment, there's that little bit of extra thing of fan attachment, that emotion to it that can help drive it as well. But again, looking at that list Hogan put out, you could have a case for all of those guys to be in, and maybe it's just a matter of time. We have our whatever it is, 14th iteration of the show 10 years from now, and maybe we will see more of these guys on the list.
This is for Mike Hogan for the Toronto Argonauts organization. I love what they're doing with the old time Argo thing, but I think they should come out with an old time Argo hat for this year, a T-shirt, and maybe even a couple of the jerseys with Schultz and Volpe on it to try to sell them to the Argo fan base.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, they've done a bit more with sort of creative liberties on some of the merchandising the last couple seasons. It would be kind of interesting to have at least something geared towards sort of the history of the team. But I'm not, yeah, I don't know. I'm not the brand marketing coordinator, so it's hard to tell how that would be received relative to kind of the more modernist stuff that they've put out. Yeah, it'd be something that you'd have to look at and make a case for to the merchandising crew. But it'd be
Speaking of
something I'd support.
Speaking of the merchandise, I like what they have on the team's website. But the problem is, if you're a bigger fan like myself or some other people, they don't have much there. It's either they have great merchandise, Nick, but they either don't have the proper sizing or they're constantly sold out. And now I'm having to look at a store in Quebec to get an Argos t-shirt. So that's the one thing I would like to say to the Toronto Argonauts. It's not that I don't like your merchandise, but your sizing is not good enough, and you just don't have enough stuff on the Real Sports Apparel website, in my opinion.
Yeah, can't say I have the same problem because I obviously fit a medium, but yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with that they make limited runs of stuff so that they're able to sell out, not have it sitting in a warehouse where you have 100 garments that haven't sold and you have to write off. And more importantly, they're able to now put something new out next season. I think that's kind of the logic between that. But yeah, I hear you where I think they could do a little bit again better
They're-
job with brand coordinating, see what you're selling and go a little bit more if you sell out, like not a ton, but just that little bit extra, and see so that you kind of hit the number in the sweet spot. Because if you have to write off 2 or 3 garments, or give them away to staff or something like that, it's a bit easier case to make than going one way where you sell 5 3XLs and then you've got none left after 3 days, or having 100 that are now rotting in a warehouse somewhere.
I would actually like somebody on from the Argonauts merchandising department because I would like to talk to them about that as well. And yeah, like I said, I like what they have, Nick. I just wish they had better sizing for the bigger fans and they didn't sell out of all their stuff as well and had more quality. But Nick, we'll talk about that another time for another discussion. So let's go. Overall thoughts on the Argonauts home opener at BMO Field and seeing the 19th banner raised up in team history, and thoughts on the replica Grey Cup rings for the first 10,000 fans, which I missed out on. But you know what? Meeting Joe Bowen was worth missing out on the ring.
Yeah, well, I will say one thing before we get started. It absolutely crushes me to see the deplorable manner in which many of the fans acted during the lineups and on the way to get in.
I didn't see
Yeah,
that. Go ahead, Nick.
so yeah, I get that they could have done a better job organizing the line between, hey, here's the season ticket holder line that opens at 2, here's the lineup for that opens at 2:30, here's the lineups for all the other gates that open up at 3 and whatnot. But for fans to get to the point where they're cussing at each other, hey, you're cutting in line, yada, this and that, and getting ready to almost throw fisticuffs to get in, all for a stupid ring, like it's really disheartening. And and it hurts because as a fan, as an Argos fan, we deal with the most amount of crap from everybody else in the league. We get told all this stuff about, oh, you guys don't have any fans and all this. And then and the team goes out of their way to do something nice like this, to give out these rings to fans, and that people are fighting amongst each other for this thing. It's just really disheartening to the point where I don't even like giveaway days anymore because of stuff like this. So
It brings out the worst in some people.
yeah, a lot of people, unfortunately, and I get it comes to part of this whole sort of scalping culture, trying to resell things and make a quick buck, versus fans who genuinely wanted to cherish it, who feel they were a part of a part of the Grey Cup, a part of the celebrations. I know I was among the group of about 100 of us who went down to the Grey Cup in BC to watch. But yeah, to me, like, to have all this fighting over it, it's just, yeah, I get that there were things that MLSC and staff at the venue could do better for sure. But for us to bring that amount of negativity to it, like, we're part of the problem as fans by doing that, and we need to agree collectively that we do a better job going forward. So yeah, that's my piece on that.
Nick, two things, and I don't expect you to agree with me on that. I think the one issue was construction, where the on the one side of the BMO Field, I guess they're ripping it apart or getting it ready for the World Cup of Soccer. I think that was a factor. And two, and I say this to all these other sporting teams, when you do a giveaway, just do it for everybody who buys a ticket to that game. That way there's none of this stuff that happens. Like, the Blue Jays only give out 15,000, and I know that's a lot, but if you know you're going to expect 30,000-40,000 people, I just think the Grey Cup ring giveaway, if they just said anyone who buys a ticket to the game will get a ring, and that could have solved the problem. But I think you're right. I think the biggest issue with the construction on the other side of the BMO Field were limited as well, Nick.
The problem with the latter argument, I get the first one, but in a way it almost makes it easier because now there's less gates that people have to go through, so it's easier to ensure you have those rings at all the gates before you run out. But to your latter point, the problem with it is that you can't suddenly make a run of 5,000-10,000 extra rings if you know you're going to get 17,000 when you only have 10,000 rings. It just can't physically be done in a short 2-day window. So you need to have that kind of plan ahead of time. And again, to my first point, the team is essentially paying for these. It's not gifted from MLSE or something. So there's only so much they can do. I think where I'm more have the big problem with the entitlement by it is from the season ticket holders. But to be fair, this is also to deal with the fact that there was no real clear communication from the team, BMO Field, MLSC on, okay, this is the 2:00 line. Because what happened was, where I was, we were kind of in the middle of the big line that had started almost 2 hours before gates open, and there were people who were never in line and just suddenly showed up right at the front of the gate saying, oh, see, we're season ticket holders. And that among the Facebook groups and everything, it just caused more chaos and conflict among everybody, like that just I don't think was really necessary. And so at the moral of the end of the day, the moral of the story, we all need to be better and we all need to be nicer to each other, because, you know, getting into fights over the lineup for a stupid ring is not the way to go.
Did you find they had enough security staff on for this event?
Well, inside, yeah, but I think they could have done a better job just coordinating at the beginning when people were there 2 hours before gates open. There was nobody trying to direct traffic, and by the time someone actually tried to show any semblance of taking charge, it was 2:15, and there were already probably 5,000 people lined up outside of gate 3 trying to get in. So it just made the whole thing worse. They needed someone there way sooner to coordinate it from the beginning, but that also means you need to pay one person or 2 or 3 people an extra couple hours pay to come in early. And man, an extra $100 an hour for 4 people, that's going to hit MLSC's profit margins heavily.
What do you say to the season?
Sarcasm intended.
Nick, what do you say to season ticket holders, especially long-term ones that didn't get a ring, and somebody who's just a casual fan gets a ring? What do you say to them about that?
Well, there's nothing. The thing is, there's nothing in it that with this giveaway that says season ticket holders are entitled to it. And we've seen what the Argos are probably going to do anyways is they're probably going to have a gift where they're going to include the rings either as an option or just straight up your season ticket gift this year as a bonus. are the rings. But I think we've seen it the last couple seasons where there's just way too much entitlement for people who think they're owed something from the team because they're a season ticket holder. We saw it with the footballs last year where it's like,
Yep.
hey, how come I only got one but I have 4 season tickets, or how come we only get this many bonus tickets to the Marlies game? Or as we saw when they did the 150th anniversary, which was the worst of it all. Oh, I've had season ticket holders tickets for the Argos for the last 40 years, but I didn't get to get an autograph from Conrad Holloway or Damon Allen or whoever. Like that kind of attitude needs to stop, because you're a fan because you care about the team. There's no they do enough for you as a fan. You don't get wagered hand and foot on just because you've had season tickets. And there's opportunities that have come all the time to do special events that the team and the season ticket staff has gone out of their way to do. To always dwell on the negatives about, oh, why didn't they do this or why didn't they do that? People always want more. You give an inch, they try to take a mile kind of mentality, right? So that's where I think it really needs to stop among the fan base.
Do you feel the team should reconsider doing giveaways in the future than after this incident happened on Saturday?
I think they need to reevaluate how they conduct the entry process for it. I don't think they'll necessarily see a stop in giveaways altogether, because to counterpoint, you brought up other times when they do these big giveaways, it does generally bring more fans to the event. So there is a case to be made that, yeah, they still need to do giveaways. As much as I mentioned earlier, it kind of disheartens me when it leads to fights almost breaking out in the lineup. They need to do a better job coordinating it, so that, especially if they're doing this thing now where season ticket holders get in early, there needs to be a dedicated season ticket holder line early and people there to control it before the event opens. They can't just start right at 3:00 and expect everybody to go line in tow. It just doesn't work like that. You need to organize it sooner. So that would be the one thing I would scream from the top of the roof of BMO Field to tell everybody.
Let's talk about the positives. Let's talk about the Grey Cup banner going up. Let's talk about the actual quality of the ring and the maybe the halftime show and the weather. We lucked out with the weather on Saturday too.
Yeah, weather was perfect. We didn't need that Snoop Dogg guy because we had the super dogs. So we had the better dogs. And then the ring itself, I mean, the ring was nice. A lot of fans who I don't actually have it opened up. I keep mine sealed. So
okay.
Yeah, I'm that guy. So I always keep it mint in box. I've done that for the last 3 Grey Cups now, rings if you count this one. So very nice box. Little thank you there.
Did you like the overall design of it?
Yeah, I saw a couple people with it. The design looks good. A little bit different from the player ring, mainly in that the boat logo in the middle is one silver piece rather than having all the individual studs making out the boat logo. So there was kind of the one little difference there. So it's the nice thing is you're able to tell if it's a fan ring versus a player ring. Sometimes I don't like that it's too similar, that you can't really tell at first glance. And then the other thing that a lot of people liked about it, particularly was the fact that they were bigger on the fingers. Because I know some people, like I have pretty small fingers, but there were some people who couldn't fit the ring from 2022 on because it wasn't cut big enough. These ones are cut a little bit wider so they can fit people who have bigger hands than I do.
Overall, what did you think of opening day at BMO Field? Positives.
Yeah, it was good. It was nice just to be back and to see so many friendly faces. Like I probably ran into, at least 40 or 50 people that I hadn't seen in very much since the Grey Cup in BC. So it was really good for that. And once kind of the chaos, like I know I dwelled on the getting into the stadium, which really brought out the worst in people. But once everybody kind of got in, the attitude was great. There was still a lot of positive energy from start right to the end. Um, everybody was in a really good mood, and I think with the weather too, like everybody enjoyed themselves. It was a really enjoyable feeling that just everybody was kind of back to a sense of normalcy, and that the Argos were back, football is back, and the season's back underway.
We have
Hey,
another
Rich.
viewer, Richard Chung. I have changed my seat this year and had a great time Saturday. By the way, I am going to the game Friday night, but I'm going as a fan. As much as I love doing the media work, I decided this game against Saskatchewan, I was going to go as a fan. So I will be sitting in section 115, row 10, in seat 2, in the end zone seats with the rowdy fans. And Nick, did you see a lot of? Obviously, you saw a lot of familiar faces at BMO Field. Did you see a lot of new people at BMO Field that maybe for the first time, possibly?
Oh, yeah, it was kind of hard for me to tell. I can't really say specifically to that, but there were a lot of people who had bought new Toronto Argonauts merch. Like I saw some of the new lines. The lineups for a lot of the merchandising was pretty decent. That's why I didn't bother buying anything last week, because I'm probably going to buy it this week. Where maybe some of the people who were attracted because of the ring giveaway weren't there. It always does kind of bother me when you see a lot of people wearing like Blue Jays jerseys or stuff like that. Weirdest one was, I think I saw 2 people wearing Pittsburgh Penguins jerseys of all things. So you get weird people like that. A couple of NFL ones. I think I saw, it might have been a Joe Theismann Washington football team jersey, and then a couple like a Dan Marino Miami Dolphins one. You get those kind of people who wear NFL jerseys, but I would say the overwhelming majority, probably 80% of people were wearing some form of Argos gear, whether it be a jersey or a hat or just an Argos t-shirt. It looked like there were a lot of people who were at some point already been to an Argos game, but there were a lot of kids who were brought down. I think that's going to be one of the big appeals with the schedule this season. They play most of their games either Friday night or Saturday in the afternoon, a couple in the evening, but mostly Saturday afternoon. So it gets a really good opportunity to expose younger and newer fans to the game, and they don't have to worry about a Sunday night 7 o'clock game when they have to get up the next morning and go to school. None of that's a big issue.
Do you think this will be? Do you feel this will happen continuing forward next year and the year after, or do you think maybe the Argos got lucky this year with the scheduling?
Well, next year's a write-off, because with FIFA and their stupid rules on leaving the field vacated for a month before the cup even starts, like it's going to be a nightmare. And I've been dreading next year since it was announced, and the amount of taxpayer money that's been wasted on it and all that. So that's a write-off. But I'm hoping that this is a sign. If the Argos can consistently get like plus 15,000 crowds on these Friday night and Saturday games, you're making a really good convincing case to the CFL to keep them playing on Fridays and Saturdays. So if this can execute well and they can stay plus 15,000 for the entire year, it's really good for them, I think.
I'm being realistic. I still think this team is capable of drawing at least 20,000 fans a game. Right now, 17-9 is great, but realistically, I think long term, I think they can do 20,000 a game. But we'll see. Nick, let's get into it with the overall result. Assessment of the 29-19 loss to a very improved Calgary Stampeders team, and why the fans should not be in a panic with the team's 0-2 start so far.
Yeah, I will start first to talk about Calgary, and I do feel really bad for Reggie Begelton, who had that injury kind of at the very beginning of the game. It was kind of a mess in a way for Calgary, because they had that injury to Reggie Begelton, and then their long snapper got hurt. So then they basically had the substitute guy do the long snapping. but then on the extra point, but the snap went over Parades's head. So then what they had to do was they had to put the original long snapper in, but basically after he snapped the ball, he basically stood up and basically that was it. He couldn't run. He couldn't chase down the play. So they were effectively down a player after the ball was kicked, which is kind of a tough circumstance to be in. But getting on with the Argos, I think Nick Arbuckle's getting a lot of excessive flack because I really don't think he played that badly. When you look at the scoring and the stats right now for week 2, the one that really stands out like a sore thumb on Arbuckle is the 4 interceptions, 2 in each game. And then if you add an extra one, there was the fumble thing in the Montreal game that was returned. That's kind of the big blemish, and it is pretty big because he's the only quarterback with 4 INTs through 2 games. Schultz has 3, but only after 1 game, and then everybody else has 2 or fewer. So that's like the one kind of big thing. But all of his other stats are pretty comparable. His passing percentage is good. His average yards put him 3rd right now behind Bo Levi Mitchell and Vernon Adams. And keep in mind, the Ticats are 0-2 as well. His TDs are on par. His average yardage is maybe a little bit short, but he's not really that far behind if he can just clean up the interceptions on his game. And then the other thing I really liked was that the running game was established pretty well. Chop Williams did a really good job. And so I think that's kind of the one aspect that maybe got a little...
I am back. I apologize. Nick. It was a technical difficulties, an issue with my Wi-Fi, so we're back. Hey, Nick, while we're going on, I do have a special guest that just popped on as well, and I want to bring him on too, and we'll get his thoughts and your thoughts too. Marty York, a longtime Toronto media personality, is going to come on, lifelong CFL Argos fan. Hey, Marty, how are you?
Hey, Marty. Uh-oh, can't hear you.
You're muted. Yeah, unfortunately.
Okay. There you go.
Okay. Hey, how are you?
Good, Chris, and hello, Nick. And Nick, you did a great job there doing your soliloquy. I thought that was...
Oh, yeah. I started rambling because I was looking at a stat sheet, and then I saw Chris wasn't there, so I kind of deer in headlights froze for a second.
Oh, you did a good job. Nice work. But I must disagree with you, my friend, about Nick Arbuckle, because I'm going to be totally frank with you guys. And yes, I've been, following the Argos for many, many, many years. And last year I could see where they were going to be successful. I'm not seeing it this year. I didn't see it, even before the season began. And I think a large part of it has to do with the quarterback. I don't want to be sounding like I'm picking on Arbuckle, but when you think about it, guys, Arbuckle has really never excelled in a starting role. Take out the Grey Cup game last year and go to his days in Calgary or Ottawa or even back the first time in Toronto. He's never really been a great starting quarterback. He's always had his problems. I think the Argos right now miss Kelly on the field, and I think the Argos will have problems because I don't think Arbuckle is quite up to the task of leading a team, aside from that Grey Cup game, because he was good in that.
Marty, I tend to agree with you. I tend to agree with you. And Nick, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the thing when I look at these 2 games specifically, if we're just talking about them and not the rest of his career, I think there were just what really hurt him in the first game was that they took some really bad offensive penalties right at the start of the game. Start of drives for their first 3 drives, they had to start 1st and 15 instead of 1st and 10. It caused a big negative feedback loop because now you can't run the ball. You're stuck having to pass your way out of it, and it just kind of snowballs from there. This game, I thought Arbuckle played better than in the first one. Again, I think the INT that was returned for a pick 6 was one that probably should have been thrown. The other one that was that was intercepted deep.
Both-
Again, you could argue they probably shouldn't have been thrown in double coverage. But when I look at kind of the way that this second game went, I thought overall Arbuckle played better. He made overall better plays. There was the one drive where he extended it with his feet late in the game. There was the touchdown drive that came after. I think the thing that I found was a problem with Arbuckle there too was that he was going really long down the field in the corner to like Ungerer, where Calgary was able to read off it because he had thrown that play 2 or 3 times before. And no question, the Argos are going to be better with Chad Kelly at quarterback because Kelly just has more raw power to be able to make those throws. Arbuckle just doesn't have the same kind of strength, and I think that's where they're really lacking. But they're in a really tough situation otherwise because their other options are Tucker Horn, who's completely green, or you have Jared Dagey, who's only been with the Argos for the last 2 weeks.
Which raises the question to me, guys, why is Dukes not with this team anymore? I mean, I didn't understand some of the cuts this year. And, I'll go to the running back situation too. And, they're hurting there now. The Mayan Williams gentleman looked fine the first game, or the first 2 games, I guess. He's fine, and I'm sure he'll be fine. But I think, they miss Carey, and I think they miss Dukes right now. I think he was a guy who gave them some spark. Granted, he wasn't quite as good at the end of the season as he was right at the beginning when he was carrying the load, right? He was good at first. And I thought they should have hung on to him. It's not like he's demanding a ton of money or anything like that. And so I don't know what the issue was with Dukes, frankly. I mean, I'm not on the beat anymore per se, but to me, it would have been smarter to keep him around, especially when they knew Kelly wasn't going to start the season. And now they're left with some raw backups, as you mentioned, Nick.
Yeah, I think with Cam Duke specifically, I think
Marty,
it had to do with. I was just going to say that it looked like Cam Dukes had a really rough camp. He seemed to really struggle in the pocket in both games against Hamilton, where Arbuckle and even Horn and Dagey were able to make things happen to drive a little bit down the field. We didn't really see much of any of that from Cameron Dukes, and I think that's what led to Dinwiddie to make that decision to cut him.
But what I found over the years, guys, Chris, you've been around long enough that I know you could agree with me. There's been quarterbacks in the CFL who have had their ups and downs. I mean, they get traded, they get cut, then they go to another team and they star, and sometimes they come back to the same team.
Kevin Glenn.
Kevin Glenn's a perfect example, but I mean, you could say Damon Allen, Tracy Ham. I mean, even Matt Dunnigan, like he was around.
Matt Dunnigan?
Sure. He was with BC and Winnipeg and, Hamilton. And one point he was backing up, So I guess the point I'm trying to make is you cannot look good in the CFL as a quarterback in the preseason. But you could come right back because you have experience and knowledge of the game. And Duke's had that. You could come right back when you're needed. If Arbuckle's struggling, right now they can't even go to the bench, I don't think, like you just mentioned, Nick. But, I think if you had a guy, yes, he struggled in the preseason. My feeling on that is, so what? You've got backup linemen protecting them. You've got, in the preseason, I don't think is a true test. And I think that's why they went from 4 games to 2 games a few years ago. It doesn't really matter how you do in the preseason. I think Dukes would have been a keeper, and he can run too. And Arbuckle doesn't run very well. So that's where I'm seeing some flaws with the Argos. I think some of their cuts were questionable. That's being honest.
Marty, as for me, I was surprised Cameron Dukes was cut, but Tucker Horn outperformed him in the preseason, but you do make valid points, Marty. Dukes does have a little more experience than
Yeah.
Tucker Horn does, and I think they went with Horn because of his potential. And as for Kadeem Carey, when you saw him playing in that second preseason game in Guelph, Nick, I knew he was on the bubble, and they wanted to go with younger. They wanted to go with Mitchell and Williams and what's the gentleman's name? It used to be McMahon. They wanted to go with him, but I agree with you. I think they could have kept Carey for another year, but they made some decisions, and now Carey's with Saskatchewan, and they did bring back. There was another roster move today too, Nick and Marty.
Yep,
they
Kevin
did
Brown.
bring back Kevin Brown and linebacker Aaron Casey. What are your thoughts, Marty and Nick?
I think Kevin Brown was a good acquisition. Again, he's got experience. These guys, it's like musical running backs, musical chairs. Guys go from one team to another team, and they seem to excel. And Carey's another example. He's going to excel with Saskatchewan. Yes, they have another running back who was a former Argo as well, but Carey's going to get his playing time, and I wouldn't be surprised if he does very well against the Argos on Friday. But listen, I just want to go back to Dukes for a second here. I think there was a personnel problem with Dukes. I don't think him and Kelly got along very well. I think there were some personal issues there. And I think that may have played a role in him getting cut. I don't think training camp or preseason games matter that much. The guys who make the decisions, like Dinwiddie and Pinball and the guys, they know better than that. They know. And I think they're hurting now because without Kelly, I don't think Arbuckle's the answer. I'm repeating, I know. I think Dukes would have been. I'm sorry I went back to that, but I wanted to get that off my chest. I know there was a personality issue between those two guys.
Marty and Nick, when do you guys see Kelly coming back? I believe Arbuckle is going to be starting against Saskatchewan. Do you feel Kelly could be ready for the Ottawa game on June 29th?
That certainly seems like what it's leaning to from what I've seen with interviews, either on 3 Down Nation or I think David Morisuti. I don't want to quote anyone specifically though, because I'm not 100%. But it does seem like the indication from Ryan Dinwiddie was that he's hoping that Kelly will be ready to go in Ottawa, and I think it makes sense because the Montreal. When you look at how like the schedule was, Montreal game was not going to be an easy game for Game 1 in Montreal. They played on the 2 West teams now in Calgary and Saskatchewan. Now you've got your little stretch of games against Ottawa, against Calgary, or against Hamilton, divisional rivals. So I think if there's going to be a time to kind of time Chad Kelly back, it's now with these games against your Eastern opponents.
And I mean, I'm not going to question Nick or Nick's information. He knows his stuff. But I read a piece today where I thought that I saw something about Kelly not being available until week 5 or 6. So, I don't know. It's a matter of who you believe, I guess.
Yeah, at the end of the day, they've got time to still come back out of this deficit. We've seen teams with only 4 or 5 wins make the playoffs, so there's still lots of time.
That's a fair point. You're right about that, but I do not like the way the Argos have started the season at all.
And that leads to my next question, guys. The only good thing for the Argos right now is Montreal is playing well, but Ottawa, Hamilton, and Toronto are all in the same boat. Obviously, so the East is 2-6, and which one of these teams will win a game first, Toronto, Hamilton, or Ottawa?
What a great question, Chris. That's a really good question. And when have we seen this before about those 3 Eastern teams? I mean, there always appear to be 3 Eastern teams getting off to a slower start, or at least in the last few decades. But I would say that I think Ottawa is an improved team, and I think they do have a chance of beating Calgary this week. I take Calgary as the home team, but I think Ottawa has a chance. Listen, Calgary's defense looked good last week because, in my opinion, of Arbuckle, but that's another story. But I think Ottawa has the potential to do well this year. Do you guys know if Drew Brown's coming back as quarterback for Ottawa?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not 100%. I've heard it both ways. I thought earlier in camp it sounded like Drew Brown was going to, but he's still listed as limited on the
Oh,
depth chart. So now I'm not 100% sure if
and
it
I
is
thought
going to be.
Schultz would be better last week. He didn't, and he's got a lot of experience with a lot of teams, and he did not look good last week. I thought Ottawa had a chance of winning that game, even with him in there instead of Brown. But with Brown, they're a better team. The guy's a great passer. He's underrated, I believe. And I think that Ottawa will probably be the first team to win of those games. Hamilton's not playing this week, so
it's very similar circumstance in Ottawa as it is in Toronto with regards to the quarterbacks. The clear number ones, Chad Kelly and Drew Brown, are a significant step above who they've got in 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Marty and Nick, I'm gonna get your responses too. I know I've talked to Ryan Dinwiddie after the game, and he's told me he needs to simplify the offense. How does Ryan Dinwiddie and the coaching staff, in your opinion, guys, get this offense going that has only scored 29 points total in 2 games and has only 2 offensive touchdowns? And again, another slow start against Calgary.
Nick, you want to go first?
Sure. I liked what they did this last week against Calgary with respect to running the football. I thought Chop Williams, we finally saw some from it, which maybe Marty would disagree with me, but justify more the release of Kadeem Carey and Brown to that he's proven some of his running potential now, what he can do when he's given a lane and the ball to run. If I was Arbuckle, I would look to pass a lot more in the middle of the field. I thought too often Arbuckle was looking either into the flats or down the field for kind of the Hail Mary ball down the corner of the field. I think they need to do something more to attack the middle area of the field, especially when you're dealing with Saskatchewan, which has probably arguably one of the better defensive back cores, but maybe one of the weaker linebacking cores, or at least average. I think that's where you're going to have to try to make up yardage, kind of in the middle of the field, as opposed to down into the corners where the DBs are going to be able to show their stuff. Go ahead, Marty.
I agree with much of what you said. I would hope Arbuckle would be extremely careful around the best ball hawk in the CFL, who is in the middle of that one field with Milligan. But I agree that he was trying to force the ball onto the sides too much last week. And like you mentioned earlier, I think he found a little bit of a gem in Ungerer early, so he kept trying to go to him. And I'm not so sure that's the greatest idea when you have first-rate receivers also on that team.
Mm-hmm.
People don't forget they've got Tavares Daniel. They've got to me
non-factor in that game.
Yeah, and to me, Coxie might be the best natural receiver in the whole CFL. He's amazing, that guy. You throw the ball anywhere near him and he catches it. He can run. He does everything. I don't know if they aimed or targeted him as much as they should have. And I like some of the other receivers that the Argos have too. So don't make Unger. He's good. Nothing wrong with Unger. He's a nice, solid Canadian player. But as you said, Nick, use other parts of the field and look for some of those ace receivers.
Yeah. Dejan Brissett and Kevin Mattal are 2 individuals I can think of that have been severely under targeted so far.
And they're both very, very good. I mean, they're very good.
Yeah, so just to bring up some stats, like real quick, just to put in perspective, Coxie led with just under 100 yards, 98 last week, and 1 touchdown. Mayan Williams with 65 receiving yards, so looking to the running back well on the swing passes. Then Ungerer 55, and then at about 30 each, Daniels, Mattal, Jake Hirschlow, and Dejan Brissett 0 out of 3 targets.
And I agree, Marty, too.
I mean, when you have
go ahead.
I'm sorry, Chris.
No, go ahead,
I was just
Marty.
going to say, when you have a stud when you do have a stud like Coxie, you want to try getting him the ball even more. You talked about Dinwiddie, Chris, saying that he wanted to simplify his offense. I think you should try to expand it a little bit to get Coxie more involved, Daniels more involved, particularly use them as guys who could take the ball out of the backfield once in a while, or use them in other areas. Figure out a way to get those guys in space, because they're going to get yards for you too. So, and I don't think Arbuckle is cut out for throwing, long bombs all the time. So, hit those guys short and get them in space and let them make their moves and get their yards after catches.
Get them involved right away. And I also like what they did with Williams. Williams obviously only carried the ball 9 times for 67 yards. I would still like to see Williams get at least 15 touches a game. And then receiving, he had 9 catches for 61 or 65 yards. So I'd like to see a little more of him. They still have some nice pieces there. They just got to get the pieces involved much sooner in the game instead of waiting until the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and as Nick pointed out, Williams, and as you just pointed out, sorry, Chris, Williams did contribute. I was somewhat impressed with him. He's got a good background. He played at a great school, and he may turn out to be the real deal. But you can't judge based on 1 game or 2 games or whatever he's played. And I like the idea of bringing Kevin Brown back.
Yeah,
Nick, what's the status on Wint McManus? I heard he's going to be out 1 or 2 weeks.
Yeah, I was just going to say I double-checked. 3 Down Nation had updated the injury list. So Wint McManus will be out at least this week. Knee injury is what they're talking about. Other guys who are unavailable, Deontay McMahon, Tavares Daniels will not dress. Sage Doxtator, who was, I think, backup on the left guard, if I remember correctly, and DeMarcus Christmas, obviously. There's also question on whether Jack Cassar is going to address with a adductor injury as well.
What happened with Daniels? I didn't know he was out.
Didn't elaborate here, but I'm not sure exactly what it was he's dealing with. But
I'm surprised. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's a big loss.
Mm-hmm.
Overall assessment on the defense's play versus Calgary, and this is for you and Marty, Nick. What areas are still a concern going into Week 3 against this Friday night's opponents? The 2-0 Saskatchewan Roughriders, led by Corey Mace, the former Argos defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I think the defense is honestly playing fine, like even with the injuries and stuff aside. You look at their play in the first half, and I think both games they held Montreal, I think, to 9 points if you don't count the turnover thing at the end of the half as a defensive score. And then they held Calgary to was it 9 points as well in the first half of that game. So defensively, they're playing fine. I think what's becoming a problem is between the combinations of the penalties, the poor field position, and the inability to have long time consuming drives down the field. It's just causing the defense to lose too much strength late in games, which historically in the past has been their strength. They just don't have that ability then to keep them going in a 17 to 10 kind of ball game without getting any offensive support. So I think defensively, they keep doing what they're doing and they're doing fine. They need to tweak the offensive side and they need to get something better on the kick returns.
Ken just wanted to say, this is Ken. He's an Argonaut fan and he's watching. Thanks, Ken. He says a hip injury to Daniels.
Thanks, Ken.
My concern, Nick and Marty, the front four, they've lost a lot of key places there. The linebackers, but I think their biggest concern is in that secondary because Calgary, 2 of their top receivers, I think Philpott had 117 yards and their other receiver had 98 yards. I think that secondary is probably the weak spot on the Argos secondary, the weak spot on the defense so far with all the losses to free agency.
Yeah, I think they miss Mechie quite a bit. And I think both of you are correct. I don't think the defense is a major area of concern. I think it's okay, and I think it has a potential to be very good. But I also agree with what you just said, Chris. The secondary can be beaten, that's for sure.
Yeah, I don't think Darius Bratton is quite up to the same level as Royce Mechie. The other guy I've been kind of who's kind of struggled so far this point of the season is Tavares McFadden as well. It seems that field side secondary, as well as having Kenneth George Jr. in for Donald Rutledge, who missed the previous week there at that Sam linebacker position. That field side end of the field seems to be kind of the spot that I would target if I was Saskatchewan right now. But I would agree that defensively, it's kind of the least of their concerns right now.
Right.
That not having more than 12 points in 2 games after half is the bigger problem.
Yeah, that tires them out when the offense doesn't last on the field very long. It's so true.
Yeah.
Ken just had another comment, just said Daniel's dressed at practice, but he did not take part, just stretching. So I'm assuming he's going to be questionable for Friday night.
The one other thing I did want to plug in, I don't know if you guys follow it all, but that PFF grading thing, I found what was really interesting about it, though, was I mentioned it before that the kick returns seemed to really struggle. Apparently, Silka, who was doing the kick returns, had the highest PFF grade of any kick returner,
Really?
which was kind of, maybe it seemed a little misleading because there's through that game, like one of the themes was that the Argos had bad field position almost the entire game. But
Yeah.
I know he did have that one kick in the end zone that he ran out. So, I mean, you could kind of count like a pseudo 15 yards from where it missed and he caught it. It's kind of thing. Maybe that factors in. I don't know. But yeah, he kind of took just whatever north yards he was given, which is good, but just doesn't have the explosiveness of Janarian Grant, and no one does.
Right.
Gotta ask you this, Marty. Go ahead.
Sorry, Chris. Sloko. He seems to have the smarts. He was a quarterback in university, and I think that he looks like he's the quarterback of the defense. Not saying it's all on him one way or the other, but he looks like he has some potential to be a good leader on that squad.
Yeah, huge shout out to John Murphy for picking him up. That was a really, really good signing.
Yeah.
Does anyone know Grant's status for the game against Saskatchewan? Because every time he has the ball, Marty and Nick, he's a threat to take it to the house. And I just feel their special teams has been kind of non-existent in the first 2 games, and how much they miss Grant. His speed, that's what he brings to the team.
Gets him automatic field position, doesn't he? Yeah.
Yeah, he's questionable on the sheet, but I have to imagine if he's not 100%, kind of like Chad, probably he'll be out. I can't see them forcing an ankle injury in.
And Ken, who's a fan of ours, said Grant was at practice, dressed, but didn't take no returns, just conditioning. So I'm assuming he probably won't be playing Friday night against Saskatchewan. I hope I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, so do the Argos probably, but he's I don't think he'll be playing either.
Yeah, I'm more worried, special teams wise, I'm more worried about Jack Cassar not being dressed.
Yeah, good player. Underrated.
Agreed.
For Nick and Marty, I'm going to let you guys decide this. What are some keys to an Argos win over Saskatchewan, 2-0 at BMO Field? And is this quite a must win for the Boatmen?
Well, Chris, I don't think you want to, you don't want to get to 0-3, but the Argos will have their work cut out against Saskatchewan. They've looked pretty good in their first 2 games. They've been staying all week in Toronto, so they're not traveling. They went, they played in Hamilton last week, so they're just bonding and staying together this week and practicing, the way they would ordinarily without any travel arrangements to worry about. And they have first-rate personnel. Like the fact that Carey is the backup to Ouellette there is, shows how deep they are. I think Carey's still a really good. I mean, the guy had over 1,000 yards last year. He helped that team win the Grey Cup. So they have some terrific receivers, and Harris, even though he's about 89 years old now, he still looks very good. He still hits those receivers quite well. He can escape the pocket if he has to. at 39. Let's get real about his age. And I think, I like them. I like their defense. I have a lot of people who are expecting the Argos to get off the schneid and win their first game this week. But I personally like the Riders to continue their win streak and the Argos to lose. Now, am I still on the air? I'm having problems here.
Yep, we hear you.
We can hear you loud and clear.
Okay.
Ken, a viewer, just wanted to let you and Marty and myself know that he was at practice today. Kevin Brown was on field. Kickoff returns today at practice. So obviously they're thinking about putting him there to get some speed because he brings speed to the Argonaut.
Yeah, he can do it. That's a smart idea.
Nick, what are your thoughts to a key to an Argo win? I personally think they got to stop turning the ball over. They've turned it over, I think, 5 times in 2 games already.
Yeah. So to answer the last part first, is it a must win? No. If they lose, though, I think then it puts a lot more pressure next week in Ottawa and the week after against Hamilton. Then you're really starting to get into the more must-win territory from that point on. It would definitely be a nice win if they're able to pick this up, and I think they can because they typically match well against Saskatchewan, and I think they match well against Trevor Harris. Defensively, I feel like there's kind of no in-betweens. You either got to play a really solid cover 2, cover 3 with just kind of 3 linemen. But if you do that, you're probably going to be exposed in running game, or you play really aggressive and try to put a ton of pressure on Trevor Harris because he's not like what we saw with Vernon Adams or Davis Alexander. He's not going to be that kind of scrambly quarterback. So I think that's kind of the defensive coordinator thing that they have to decide on what to do there. Offensively, they just need to get a couple of sustained drives in the first half. They don't need to score touchdowns, but they need to at least, if they're starting at their own 35, 30-yard line, I want to see at least once, and especially twice in a game, if they can get down to around the 30-yard line and at least kick a field goal, get some points on the board and get some positive momentum going and keep the defense rested. I remember when we were talking about McLeod Bethel Thompson 2 years ago, Chris, and you were telling me that, the 3 points wasn't good enough. They need the touchdowns. And it's like, Nick, now we're hearing they can't even get a field goal.
I'll be honest with you, Nick. Obviously, 3 points is better than no points, but to me, for this Argonaut team, they need to get some touchdowns. And most of the times in football games, if you settle for field goals and kick field goals, you'll get beat. So for me, they need to get an early lead on Saskatchewan. And also, I think they're going to see a heavy overdose of AJ Ouellette and Kadeem Carey, especially with Carey coming back to Toronto. I think Corey Mace is going to make sure he's more involved in this game, in my gut feeling.
Yeah, it's a good point. Without McManus and Cassar, you could definitely exploit that in the middle linebacking core.
I am in total agreement with Chris. I agree with everything he just said. They were all good points, and it's so true. Carey's going to be, and Ouellette to a degree, they're going to really be determined to, get
show up their former team.
Yeah.
And also Tommy Neal's on Saskatchewan and Shane Ray as well. So there's a number. I call them the Saskatchewan Argonauts.
And you got Mason and Harris, the quarterback. Don't forget.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't know. Given the losses that we've had over the last 3 years, you could argue that every team is kind of the junior Argonauts.
You can argue that every team in the CFL is the junior every team in the CFL because almost every player in the league has been on at least one other team if they've been around for more than a year. Usually, and that's been one of the age-old complaints about the CFL is that. It's a transient league, and it's hard for fans to identify with all the players on the team in their local region because the guys are moving around. Very few guys are Pinball Clemens and stay with one team for life in the CFL.
Yeah.
Marty, go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, I was just gonna say it was a pretty big topic of discussion on Twitter earlier today that they were talking about. Dave Naylor put a thing about just talking about the ratio because of how it affected the Montreal-Ottawa game and how the confusion about it for just your average Joe fan, like who's gonna track whether the designated American substituted the nationalized American substituted the designated national player for 25 or less plays. Nobody's going to follow that stuff. So that brings up a good point to that whole can of worms.
Yeah.
Marty, since we have you on, I wanted to get your thoughts on Chris Schultz and Nick Volpe being introduced into the all-time Argos.
Well, Nick Volpe is a no-brainer. The guy was a major part of the organization for decades. Everything from a player to I believe he may have coached at one time, but he was a super scout. He was director of personnel or something like that, Canadian personnel. He was always around. So Nick Volpe's a no-brainer. And I'm not going to say anything that negative about Chris Schultz. Obviously, the guy was a very popular guy. I got to be honest with you, Chris and Nick. I'm not going to take a shot at Schultz. Don't worry. I don't watch line play that much. I don't know who's a great offensive lineman. I usually have to take the coach's words for it because I don't watch the line play. I watch, everything else on the field. So if Schultz was a great lineman, I don't know. I know he got mad at me a lot, and we had our differences quite a lot. And I reported the day he was drafted. I reported the day he went to the Dallas Cowboys. I interviewed Tom Landry, the Dallas coach, about Schultz, and I thought that was a flattering piece, and Schultz didn't like it. But look, he succeeded me on the panel at TSN, and he was very well liked. And I just hope he's resting in peace because he passed away far too young.
Mm-hmm.
Totally agree, Marty. And which one of these, and also Marty and Nick, before we wrap this up, I wanted to get your thoughts. Why do you feel the West is stronger than the East right now? What are some reasons for that?
That's a really good question. I mean, it just seems like that is often, if not always, the case. And I don't know if I have an answer for that because I actually thought that Montreal is probably the best team in the league right now. So I thought that Hamilton and Ottawa were also going to get off to good starts, and I haven't seen it. So, I mean, what does it come down to? Better coaching, better personnel? I don't know. It's really hard to explain. Why is the West why does the West always seem to be a little better? Mind you, we are so early in the season that things can turn around. You could see a complete difference in, how the CFL is.
Yeah,
2 weeks, 3 weeks, 5 weeks.
Look at Winnipeg last year, right?
Yeah. I mean, and just because Toronto's in last place right now, it doesn't mean that they won't be in first place in 5-6 weeks. The weather starts changing down the road, and some teams are made better for cold weather, and some teams are made better for the warmer weather. So it's so early. Who knows how and there's some acquisitions, there's injuries, things will change.
I'm going to put you and Nick on the hot spot right here. Which CFL coach right now is on the hot seat if they don't get their team turned around in the next few weeks?
Scott Milanovich.
He made some questionable decisions last week, I thought. I don't know, Nick, if you know what I'm talking about specifically, but there was one challenge. There was no way they were right on it, and it hurt them. So, yeah, I agree. Milanovich is on the hot seat. Hamilton should be doing better this year. And again, they're 0-2. It's early, but they're going to have to turn it around, or he could be in trouble. I'm just trying to think if there's anybody else in trouble.
I'm going with Bob.
If Calgary should go back. Bob Dice in Ottawa. Yeah, he's another one who, if things continue to go bad there, could be. I agree with you, Chris. Could be in trouble. But I also wonder about Dave Dickinson. I mean, after last season was really poor, and I thought he was going to get maybe canned after the season last year, and he didn't.
Yeah, I mean, instead they cleaned house. Everybody else but him got fired, and he had a chance to start from scratch.
Right, and he brought it. He's got a good quarterback now.
A good quarterback can make a coach look great.
That's right. And he's got some good assistant coaches now too, and one of whom is his brother, who's been a head coach. And I think Calgary has improved, and I think they will continue to do so during the season. But I mean, I think Edmonton's going to improve too. I really do.
Well, you hope so. I think everyone in the league just kind of hopes so, just so that it's not another abysmal season for them.
I can't see it being that way, Nick, for Edmonton again. I mean, I think Killam's, he's 20 years in the league as assistant coach. He knows his stuff. I think he's going to be good. And they've got Trey Ford, to me, most exciting quarterback in the league.
Hey, so careful. There are no superstars in the CFL.
Yeah, there are no superstars.
Not in Edmonton, I guess.
Yeah, well, I think Trey Ford is a superstar. I think and I think there are superstars in the league. I'm sorry, I have to disagree with Ed Hervey, I think it was.
Yeah.
But I don't I think Rourke is a superstar. I think the quarterback in Montreal, Davis Alexander or Alexander Davis, whichever one it is, I think he's got the potential to be a superstar. There's CFL-sized superstars, and there are quite a few. So
yeah, for me, it was just for him to say that in Edmonton when you've had two of probably the greatest CFL players ever in Warren Moon and Normie Kwong.
Well, that's right, and there's been some others too on
that. Yeah, but I those two stand out to me biggest because Moon, of course, is the only guy in both Hall of Fames, and Normie Kwong's probably the most famous Asian football player in all of football.
That's right.
Nick, you forgot a gentleman that helped start their Grey Cup dynasty, the Eskimos, Tom Wilkinson.
Yeah. Great too. There's so many there. I mean, remember Kepley, the linebacker?
Dan Kepley, yep.
I mean, that guy was a star. There were so many. Listen, one of my best friends on this planet is Hank Olisic. He has 7 Grey Cup rings. He's a Hall of Famer, the greatest punter in either league. And so, I mean, they had tons of guys, and I never got along great with Hugh Campbell, but you got to give him some of the credit.
Winner. He's a winner.
They won 5
Hank Olisic should be an all-time Argonaut, if he already isn't.
I don't think he is, no, but I agree with you.
I don't believe so.
Mike Hogan, if you're out there, Hank Olisic.
Pardon?
If Mike Hogan is watching or listening to this show, consider Hank Olisic next year, please.
I'm not going to argue.
Well, it's up to the players the alumni association to do that voting. That's conducted completely separately from the team.
As we wrap this up, Marty and Nick, CFL Week 3 starts tomorrow night, Thursday night. Montreal, Edmonton, Saskatchewan, Toronto Friday night, Ottawa, Calgary Saturday, Winnipeg and BC on Saturday night. Want to get your thoughts, Marty and Nick. Who's going to win these games? What are your picks?
So I'm going to start here, Nick, because I just wrote my picks for my Twitter account, and it's fresh on my mind. So the line in Edmonton tomorrow night is Montreal's favored by 6.5, but I like Edmonton to at least cover and keep that game close. Montreal's playing great football. There's no question about it. But Edmonton at home, I think Ford's great. And I can see Edmonton making that game very close and exciting. On Friday, I know the fans watching this show regularly are Argo fans, but I'm afraid I think Saskatchewan will win that game. And then on Saturday, I think it'll be very close between Calgary and Ottawa. That could go either way. I mean, the line's 1.5 favoring Calgary. I probably would take Calgary just because of the home advantage, and because, as you guys mentioned earlier, Brown is not quarterbacking, or it doesn't look like he will be. And then for Ottawa, and then the last game is going to be a doozy. Winnipeg at BC. I'm not sure if Rourke is playing in that game because he got hurt a bit last week.
Yeah.
So if he's not playing, Mazzoli will be the quarterback, and it's not like he hasn't had a lot of experience. I like BC at home to win that game. They're dogs by 2.5 points. I like them to win outright and cover.
Nick?
Yeah, I got some different opinions, perspectives on it. I like your point about the spread, the 6.5 point spread with Montreal and Edmonton. I still think at this point in the season, Montreal, just with the way that they've got a lot of players return, their defense looks so good. I think they're going to find a way to win and cover that 6.5 spread. The Toronto Saskatchewan game, I know I talked about it, and I know it goes against all sense with how things have looked up this far, but I have this weird feeling that Toronto's going to pull off a win against Saskatchewan at home. Calgary and Ottawa, like you said, especially if Drew Brown's not playing for Ottawa, I think Calgary has just a little bit extra that they can bring to pull them over at home. And then Winnipeg and BC, this is probably going to be the most interesting one because Winnipeg thumped BC pretty good at home last week, but I think Winnipeg's going to find a way to, whether it's Rourke or Masoli, I think they're going to find a way to put pressure on them again like they did last week at home.
Yeah, and don't forget, Winnipeg is without their great running back this game.
Yeah, Oliveira's out, but Zach Collaros is back, I believe.
Yes.
I thought Streveler, granted, he's not your best passer, but he can run and he can find open receivers as he did for touchdowns against BC. He's got lots of experience. If they had to go with him, it wouldn't be that bad either. But I still like BC.
What about you, Chris?
I'm gonna be a little different from the both of you guys. I'm gonna go with the Elks over the Alouettes in a upset. I hate to say this. I agree with Marty on this. And Nick, you're going to be disappointed with me, and I'll get booed Friday night at BMO Field. But I got to go with Saskatchewan, 27-24 over Toronto. I do think AJ Ouellette and Kadeem Carey are going to have terrific games against their former team. And then Ottawa and Calgary on Saturday night, I'm going to go with the Stampeders. I really think Calgary is an improved team. I'm not saying they're a Grey Cup contender or a powerhouse. I just think them at home, I think they're going to win and go 3-0. And then Winnipeg at Blue BC on Saturday night, I'm going to go with the BC line. So I got the Elks, Saskatchewan, Calgary, and I got BC winning this week.
So you're agreeing 100% with me.
Yes. I'm hoping I'm wrong about the Saskatchewan Toronto game. I really am.
Well, one thing that I kind of find fun each week with Pick'em is it can either make you look like a genius or it can make you look like a fool pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's how the bookies make their money, right?
Absolutely.
Hey, Marty, before we let you go, where can our audience follow you on social media? And just quick thoughts on the CFL so far.
On social media, at Marty York, Twitter. That's the best and easiest way. And I do my picks weekly, and I go against the spreads, and so far I have a losing record in 2 weeks, but usually I turn it around and end up close to 500 or with a winning record. But like you said, Nick, it's not easy. And then what do I think of the CFL? I think it's a great league. I always do. I look forward to every single game. And just resting on my couch these days. I don't go to as many games as I used to, obviously, but I still enjoy it. Nothing beats. I know some people were critical last week, guys, of the Thursday night games. I don't know why. I love Thursday night games. I like Friday night games. I like Saturday games. I like them all. And to me, the more the merrier. So I hope the CFL never gives up it's Thursday night games. They're great. And like I said, the more the merrier. I still I'm a CFL guy. I know I always will be.
Marty, before we
here.
let you go in 30 seconds, I just thought of one last quick question for you. Thoughts on Stuart Johnston? Do you think Stuart's the gentleman to lead the CFL going into the future, in your opinion?
So, I mean, frankly, he got to TSN after I left. So I don't ever remember meeting Stuart Johnston ever, but I've heard good things about him. I understand from some of my friends who were in managerial positions at CFL organizations that he is a decent guy to work with. He has appeared to say the right things, whether it's on television interviews or on his online messages. So, I mean, I can't see him being a problem. In fact, I can see him being a boon for the league.
Nick, final thoughts for Marty before we let Marty go.
I don't have anything else to add or any other questions to ask. We see you almost maybe 3 times this season. So usually I get to whatever it is that I want to talk about in the middle of our discussions. But it's always a pleasure to have you, Marty, and you're always welcome on here. It's great to hear some insight from someone who's not only been following the league for as long as you have, but has actually had the experience as a reporter to be down on the field, to get into a near fist fight with Chris Schultz.
No, more than once, trust me. But listen, that's the way it is sometimes. I love being on with you guys. So please ask me anytime, and I'll make myself as available as I can. Thank you, Nick.
Thanks a lot, Marty.
Thank you so much, Marty, and hopefully we'll see you at BMO Field sometime this summer.
Yeah, oh, you will. I'll let you know. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you
Take
so much,
care.
Marty. You too.
Bye, guys.
See ya.
Bye. All right, Nick, before we wrap up this show, I did a post-game interview with one of the Argos' new linebackers. I can't remember what his last name is. His first name is Brian, but he was generous enough to give me a little bit of time. And this is from the Argos locker room after their win against loss against Calgary. One
That was
second.
for Alabama.
Yes, thank you for correcting me. Here's Pomay live in the Toronto Argonauts locker room at BMO Field after today's game, 29-19 loss to the Calgary Stampeders. And I have one of the Argo players here. Just thoughts on today's game against Calgary.
We started off slow. I think that's the team about the beginning of the season. We're starting off slow, so I mean we're playing catch-up football the whole game and turning it up in the fourth quarter, but it's a little too late. So we got to work on a lot of stuff, but you know what? We've seen some promising things, and we just got to find a way to get going earlier.
Yeah, I noticed offensively you guys kind of had a slow start, but you guys did pick it up in the second half. What did you guys like in this game a little bit more than in the Montreal game?
I mean, we got full trust in our offense. They just got to get clicking. I mean, it's early in the season. You know, a couple of new guys at a certain position, and it takes time. You know, today wasn't a Grey Cup game, but once they're gonna get going, I mean, this offense could put up 40 anytime. So we just got to be patient with them, and it's gonna click real soon.
How much of a difference does it make with a lot of new players in this new system? It takes, I try telling the fans too, it takes time for guys to learn systems and all that as well.
Yeah, obviously we got a lot of talented guys in this locker room. I think just meshing together as a locker room, as a team, it takes a couple of weeks, right? Then learning the system also takes a couple of weeks before guys get real comfortable in it. So it's early in the season. We just don't want to be behind the 8 ball too long, right? We want to start getting going because once you start playing catching up, it's a little harder. So we just got to get clicking a little earlier and start swinging. I mean, we see when we get some big plays, we could play with anyone. It's just we wait a little too long to get them. So,
what part of the game are you looking to improve upon for next week against Saskatchewan here at BMO Field?
Everything. I think offense could start faster, defense could get off the field a little more, and special teams, I think we got to stop taking penalties as a whole. We got a lot of work on all 3 phases of the game. It's not just one phase of the game, and once we get meshing, we'll be a good football team for sure.
For Argo fans, how would you describe yourself as a player?
Intelligent, fast, I'm a little older in this league, so I understand football. So, you know what? I'm just trying to show the ropes to these guys, the young guys. It's a new locker room and get them all together. And yeah, that's about it.
Any story behind your number?
I got here and they gave it to me, and once they gave it to me, we won a Grey Cup with it, so I can't change it. It's mine now.
Just quick thoughts on Ryan Dinwiddie and the coaching staff.
Subpar. You don't find another coaching staff like this. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of the Eastern Conference Finals, there's Argonauts in them, and a couple of years back, you could see the Argonauts in the championship games. We got 2 out of 3 in the last 3 years. So this coaching staff is amazing. Kevin Ibin, Mickey Donovan, and all the assistant coaches. I mean, we got the coaches to bring us what we need. We just got to start clicking early.
And for Argo fans right now that are a little worried with the 0-2 start, what would you tell them for next week going forward against Saskatchewan?
It's not time to panic. If I can remind you guys, Winnipeg started 0-4 last year, and we're at the final dance. It's not how you start; it's how you finish.
Finally, what's a fun fact about yourself?
Fun fact about myself: I think I could sing. I feel like I can sing, but I'm pretty sure guys wouldn't agree with me. So.
I know I can't sing. I tried karaoke once in New York and emptied out a bar. But hey, Brian, I want to say thank you so much for doing this interview and continued success this season.
Yes, sir. Go Argos.
Thank you so much. Thoughts, Nick, on that interview with Brian?
Yeah, great to hear from Brian Harlamana. It's someone that you probably don't think of when you think of the Argos defensive core, but he's been around the league for quite a while. He played 3 years in Montreal before coming to Toronto last year, and important piece. He's that second string weak side linebacker. Maybe I don't know how it's lining up on the depth chart this year. He may fall behind Ryder Varga and Cam Judge, but a solid piece, a big special teams performer too. I think he's already has 1 tackle this season on special teams. So long way to go in the season, but yeah, great to hear from some of the guys that you don't really think of on the roster as much. Because all the glory with all these interviews. Everybody wants to talk to Nick Arbuckle. Everybody wants to talk to Williams or McMahon or Cokesy or whoever. So it's nice to get exposure from some of the players who you might not consider first off. And you can see he's a really great stand-up individual. Oh, did we lose Chris again? I think we might have, because I just have him kind of staring. Well, if that is the case, I think we will end the stream off here. It's been an hour and a half, so probably a little over what we generally intend to. But I want to thank all you guys who have came on, who have stuck around and listened to us. Yep, there it goes. So I will say thank you to everybody who stuck on. If you're going to give a follow on YouTube, this should be posted on Chris Pomay's network, live with CDP Sports Talk. So you can follow him on Twitter at CDP. If you're looking to follow myself, you can follow myself at Nick_small_38. I also have a Blue Sky account under the same username. So, but I still haven't really posted as much on there as I have on Twitter. And I also have a YouTube channel as well that should be Nick Small as well. So if you want to follow, give me a follow there. By all means, you can.
I am back, Nick.
Hey, good. I just did the plugin, the closing plugin. So if there's anything that I missed, I've plugged in our social channels. So and I think that's everything we needed to cover for today.
Yeah, just a technical glitch, and it happens. And I want to say, Nick, thank you for coming on here tonight. And it was great to have Marty York on. Anybody who knows the CFL as well as Marty, that would be great as well. And guys, if you watch this show live stream or in audio during the year, we're going to have guests come on from time to time as well. And not just Argo guests from maybe around the CFL as well. And me and Nick want to say thank you to everyone watching this live stream and on audio. And Nick, I wanted to ask you this before. Obviously, Wynton McManus is going to be out for 1 or 2 weeks, possibly. What are your thoughts? How much do you know about linebacker Aaron Casey, who they brought in today?
He's gonna be a non-factor. They're gonna have Isaac Darkangelo start, and then probably rotate between Judge and Varga and him. Um, he's more a depth piece because don't forget, not only is McManus out, but Jack Cassar is out, so that's why they have him. I could see him play on special teams. Maybe depending on if the game's really skewed one way or another, he might get some reps during garbage time, but he's not going to be like some guy coming in and doing what Winnie McManus is able to do. It's just not that kind of player.
What does Isaac Darkangelo bring to this Argo defense?
He's a really underrated player. I think he's maybe not quite at the same level as McManus, but he has a good level of speed. If I remember, he came in for a good chunk of time during the Grey Cup game because I remember there were several injuries where I think it was McFadden, Franklin, and McManus were all out at one point in the game for a couple plays. So he was one of those guys that just came in there. And he's really been kind of the go-to guy, whether it's been the Mike middle linebacker position or the Will weak side linebacker position. Often he's been the guy that's come in instead of Brian Hurlamana last year to come in and to fill that position. So he's very versatile.
Final thoughts, Nick, before we wrap up this show.
Don't doubt on the Argos. It's a long season, lots of time left. No panic button yet, and hopefully I will see you guys at BMO Field this Friday. It's always fun to watch play Saskatchewan. Maybe we'll see a couple watermelons get thrown onto the field. That has happened before. I was there, but it happened at the Sky Dome. So you never know with the Riders. So yeah, take care, everybody, and we'll see you next week sometime.
Hey, Nick, and you want to plug your appearance on Robbie Schneider's show Sunday? Go ahead.
Yep, I'm going to be on Robbie Schneider's sports talk show. So if you haven't tuned in, I'll post a link on my Twitter. It's 716 Blizzard Sports Talk. So if you see me, I'll post it out on Twitter. I'll be with him on Sunday night on the 22nd. So I believe at 7:00 we timed it for. So I might see some of you guys there. If not, I'll see you sometime next week on the Argo Bounce.
Nick, thank you for filling in for me for a couple minutes tonight with my technical difficulties, and I'm already getting pumped up, fired up for Friday night, and I'm going to be going as a fan, so I can have a beer and watch the game with you guys, and looking forward to a very good game against Saskatchewan, Nick, and thank you so much for coming on, and again, thank you to Marty York, and anyone out there that wants to advertise on the Argo Bounce podcast show, a weekly show devoted to the Toronto Argonauts, please either contact Nick Small or myself, and we would look forward to doing business with you and advertising here on the Argo Bounce podcast show, a weekly show devoted to the 19-time CFL Grey Cup champion Toronto Argonauts. Thank you so much, Nick, for coming on here, and we'll see you Friday night at BMO Field.
Take care, everybody. Go Argos.
Go Argos. Thanks, Nick. All right, everybody, that wraps up Season 4, Episode 2 of the Argo Bounce podcast show with co-hosts Nick Small and Chris Pomay, and our special guest tonight, longtime former Toronto media personality and with the Globe and Mail, Marty York, for coming on here as well. And before we wrap up this show, guys, the next Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show, sponsored by BarryCollin.com, is going to be on Saturday, June 21st at 10 a.m. Eastern with my special guest, Daniel M. Smith, a broadcast journalist and a radio personality on radio station WGBM 1360 AM and 98.5 or 98.9 FM in Pittsburgh. So check that out with Daniel M. Smith this Saturday, June 21st, 10 a.m. on Live with CDP Sports and Entertainment Talk Show. And next week, the Argo Bounce podcast show with Nick Small and I will return. Stay tuned to Nick and I's social media pages for when our next show is going to be and possibly who our next guest is going to be as well. And if you want to go to a game at BMO Field, you can get tickets at argonauts.ca, or you can watch the game on TSN or listen to it on the radio. TSN 1050, 7:15 pregame show with Mike Hogan and Ben Grant. And as always, as Nick would say, Go Argos, and we'll see you back here next week for another edition of the Argo Bounce Podcast Show with Nick Small and Chris Pomay. Have a great night, everybody. And again, go Argos.
Go, Toronto Argos, go, go, go. Go together, fight the foe, foe, foe. Stop.